I'm going to show digitizing a small set of boat plans and cut these parts out on a CNC machine. This small racer is about 8 feet long and 4 feet wide. It'll take up to a 7.5 horsepower motor. This full-size plan is 97 inches by about 28 inches wide. Note the 2 reference points have been done. Here I've identified the null part, the part that you have to redraw because that's where the boards are joined. Before I start any tracing, I like to verify that my 2 boards are working correctly with the computer. Go to Setup and Configure and follow the instructions. What you're going to end up doing here is touching the pen on table 1 and verifying that table works, and touching the pen on table 2 and verify that that table is working correctly. This also shows that the ports are working correct. Now that everything checks out, you're ready to digitize. I've added the 2 reference points, and I'm showing here how I'm touching each reference point as the software requested for moving the print later. You can see here where the Jumbo software is requesting those 2 reference points be inputted. This is important because when we have to move the diagram to redraw that section of the null area between the 2 boards, these reference points are important. So here I'm starting to do the tracing of all the parts. I trace each part separately and then close it, and then I go on to the next one and close it, and by closing it, it stops having any open vectors. One tip here is to keep a kind of a mental thought about where you start and where you stop, because the pen doesn't leave any marks. Again, I save my work frequently because if there's any problems, I can always go back to the last best diagram I've done. The drawing has to be saved before we can start to work at that null area, the joint between the 2 boards. Then we move the paper template over to the right or left to be able to draw in that area and do the reference points again. We then go to File, Open with Alignment. Go to Edit, toggle to the area needing that redraw, select Edit Portion, select Digitize, and draw that missing portion. Again, make sure you save your work frequently. So we redo this procedure for every part that's missing on that joint section between the 2 boards called the null area. Once we're finished, we'll save the file as the final file and go on from there. There will be a small amount of editing of the nodes. I'm now going to load the image into Vectric Aspire 9.0, and this is where I check for node editing. I also check for open vectors, and then I run it through the simulator to see how the parts cut out. Once I'm happy with all that, I create a toolpath for the CNC machine to cut this. I'm doing something different here. I put the full set of plans right on top of the board that I'm cutting on the CNC machine to see where I can get the best cut and save on material. All the parts are nested, and I'll cut everything out at the same time. I'm using a 1/4 inch carbide end mill. I'm running about 100 inches per minute at about 21,000 RPM. Again, all the videos shown here are sped up so I can get a lot of data shown. You'll notice all the parts that are cut are tabbed so the part doesn't come flying out. Everything cut well. Because of the nesting, I was able to save half the sheet for some of the internal parts of the boat. I'm getting ready here for assembly of the boat. I also had to rip up a bunch of wood for frames and then fit them together on the profiles. Because I digitized the plans and the CNC cut the parts out, everything fit perfectly. All the notches lined up, everything. All we need now is the top skin to be applied, screwed down and glued, and the boat would be ready for a fiberglassing job or a paint job. I think it looks cool.